What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, this one comes from Sony Pictures, and this one is written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton. He is an actor in 1969. He's kind of a aging actor, and so he's not really being called upon for as many roles as he used to. He was in a really popular TV show, and so, he's kind of living in his heydays a little bit too much, and so that's what he kind of relies on. But as the times keep changing in Hollywood, he is slowly starting to be pushed out as someone who is a has-been at this point. But he also has his stunt double, Cliff Booth, and that is played by Brad Pitt. And we kind of just see their interactions and kind of see them go through a couple projects throughout Hollywood and just kind of see them interact. Now, they come across several people in this film, people like Dakota Fanning or Timothy Olyphant, Al Pacino, even Luke Perry shows up, rest in peace. This is his last film role. And they kind of, weave in and out of their journey. And then we also have, as the B storyline, we have Sharon Tate, who is played by Margot Robbie. If you guys don't know Sharon Tate's story, Charles Manson, murder, yeah. And so that's kind of the B storyline, and the stories kind of come head to head towards the very, very end, and that is what we have. Kind of in the same vein of an Inglourious Bastards or Django Unchained, where Quentin Tarantino likes to take a little bit of liberty in changing history a little bit and how it was portrayed. So, going into this movie, my expectations were high. I'm a huge Tarantino fan. Yes, even down to Death Proof, which I think that's just great. It's such a great movie. I mean, it's a grindhouse movie. What do you want? So I've liked everything that he's done. The only thing I haven't seen thus far is Jackie Brown. Yes, please don't shoot me. I need to get up on that as soon as I can. But I've seen everything else up until this point, and so. The trailers were really great. It's got Tarantino's stamp all over it. The meaty dialogue, the great, acting, the slick editing. Like, that's just kind of his style. Making genre, pulpy pictures that we can just sit there and enjoy for, almost 4 hours long. A typical Tarantino film. And so, I was really stoked. And I'm just going to be upfront about this. The screening that I was at was a 35 millimeter showing of it. They had 9 reels of this movie, and they had to splice them together at the right moment as they were playing to go from reel to reel. And so that was a great, phenomenal cinematic experience. So I will not take that away from this movie whatsoever. Okay. I think this is a good movie. I don't think it's one of Tarantino's best movies. If you were to ask me like what my top 3 are, this wouldn't come anywhere close. Top 5, it still wouldn't. I would do definitely bottom 4. And that's not to say that, there isn't anything good in this movie that's worth mentioning, because there's a lot of great things in this movie. Tarantino, to me, even when he does wrong, there's still stuff to admire and appreciate, and I kind of just have respect for the guy because he knows what he's doing. It's bold filmmaking every single time, and I can appreciate and kind of examine stuff that he puts in his movies all the time, where I can be like, wow, that was such a great sequence. I got to replay that and watch it. Like, he has those sequences in this movie as well. I just do think that this movie kind of faults a little bit in its story, in its structure, and in its time length that really kind of sets it back. But I think it's a good movie. I just, maybe if I see it again, maybe I'll be like, wow, what was I thinking? This is a great movie. But for right now, I will say that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a good movie with some caveats. Let me explain. So the actual story with Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth and their interactions on set, or even when they're at their houses and just kind of like talking back and forth, That's where I was interested. That is where the meat of the story is. I love the chemistry between Dalton and Booth and their back and forth. Rick Dalton is an alcoholic. He's a little full of himself. Um, Cliff Booth has to drive him around, and he just kind of accepts it, but he realizes that this is his one and only friend in Hollywood, and he can get him jobs. Like, it's a nice little relationship, and you just want to see them talk all day. And that's the one kind of highlight about this movie, is that Tarantino flourishes in conversations or just scenes where people are talking, primarily just them two, just looking at a television screen. And that stuff was riveting to me. That was intriguing. That is where I found the most interest in the story, was anything that had to do with them, or them interacting with people on set, or people around Hollywood. That's what I really enjoyed, and it's a great love letter to 60s cinema. The production design is on point. The costuming, this is visual eye candy from start to bottom. It's such a visual feast to watch. And when you're seeing that with this very chill approach to these main characters just talking about Hollywood and their personal problems, and we see that with this beautiful scenery, it makes for a really impressive watch. It really does, and I can't take it away from that. Here is where I have an issue with it. And I saw this movie at this point 3 days ago. So I wanted to think on this. And when I walked out of the movie, I had a lower thought than I do now. But I've grown to appreciate this movie more. But I still have an issue with its B storyline. So with like Inglourious Bastards, going after Hitler made sense. This was a group of Nazi hunters. They went after Hitler. Yeah, he changed history, but it fit with the story. With Django, this is a man who has been captured by a slave owner. He's going to rise up, take back his land, and kill the slave owners. That makes sense. Changes history, but whatever. You roll with it because it makes sense for the story. We have an actor, we have his stunt double going throughout Hollywood, going to sets, interacting with managers, studio heads. That's all great. But when they start interacting with the Manson storyline, I don't really buy it this time in changing this history. It doesn't make sense for the movie. If you took out that whole storyline, this movie would have been just as good, and you could change the ending, because a lot of people are going to be down below, well, the ending doesn't work. Change it to something else that has to do with that extreme violence or whatever, and make sense for this the journey that they're on. It just seemed like a sidetrack storyline that didn't make any sense for its A storyline. And every time when they cut away and Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio would go to like the ranch where all these girls were at, or when they would cross paths with the Manson story, it just seemed like it was off this time. And it didn't make sense to me to just like, okay, we're watching this movie about movies and filmmaking and this awesome love letter, and then oh wait, there's the Manson murders. That's interesting. Oh, we're going back to, okay, cool. It's just it's a distraction, and I think it just pads out the runtime to even further lengths than it already is, and it just if you cut it out and just had more scenes with Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth, I would have definitely given this movie a higher grade. But I just thought the Manson stuff, I don't know, it didn't work for me in this one. And on that note, Sharon Tate, why was she in this? I honestly want to know. We'll get to the acting in just a second with Margot Robbie, but I found her character to be pointless and really didn't add anything to even the B storyline. It was just kind of like she was there. Cool. I don't know. It's really weird. I know a lot of people are going to defend it in the comments, and I want to know people's perspective on this because this part of the story just no. And with that being said, it pads out the runtime. You can definitely feel the length of this movie. I will say the first act, the third act, definitely got some sparks of energy going on. That typical Tarantino flair with the dialogue and the swift editing. I was on board. Man, there's a huge portion in that middle where you're just like, this is a slog to get through. Even with Tarantino's dialogue and these performances, it weighs the movie down in the second act. And with the Manson stuff, there's a whole section you could just take out and you would have been fine. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how you can fix this. I don't know if you just make it all Dalton and Booth and you just make a different storyline or a B storyline. It's just the Manson stuff. I'm telling you, it weighs the movie down in its runtime because it feels longer than it should, and it's just unnecessary. It really is. Like I said, I don't mind if Tarantino wants to change history and have fun with it and play with it and be pulpy and outrageous and gory and ridiculous like he did with Django or Inglourious Bastards, but it's just like, I don't get why you did it with this movie. I really didn't. So, yeah, those are basically my two negatives. Kind of big ones for sure. Is the length of the movie and how it weighs down in the middle, and then of course the B storyline. The performances are outrageously good. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are phenomenal in this movie. The the comedic timing on these gentlemen is so pitch perfect. The interactions that they have with each other and even the dramatic stuff, it works. You want to know why? Because they're class A actors and they can do anything. And Leonardo DiCaprio is just getting better and better. It's riveting to watch when you have, because they've both been in Tarantino movies before, but like it's just every time when they're in a Tarantino movie, it's just like he can put whatever dialogue he wants and let Leo just speak, and you are commanded to that screen, or even Brad Pitt, because the dialogue is so well written for these characters and they are able to portray this so well that it's so entertaining to watch. Like, they are so good in this movie. Everyone else that's like a side character, because I'll get to Margot Robbie in just a second, like Al Pacino, Dakota Fanning, Timothy Olyphant, even Luke Perry, as brief of an appearance as his was, everyone was good. Emile Hirsch was in this. Just everyone was good. They were solid. But the main two you go see this for is Leo and Brad, and they're fantastic. Margot Robbie, I feel bad for her because there really wasn't much for her to do, except for to smile, say she was in this movie, smile some more, and kind of walk around. Maybe have a couple lines towards the end, but that's about it. And it's just like, that was kind of a waste of her time, which led me believe that maybe that whole storyline was a waste of time. So that's just me. I thought she was very wasted in the movie for sure. I wish she played a different character. The cinematography and the editing, as usual, it's got that energy to it. It's got style. It's got finesse. It's crazy. It's out there. It's bold, just like Tarantino and his personality. So I always love the way he shoots and he edits his movie. But you definitely, for time's sake, you could have cut some stuff out, and it would have been 10 times better in my opinion. But I still think even with its 2-hour and 40-minute runtime, it has enough energy in the dialogue and the way it is shot and the performances to carry that to the end, even if the middle part does kind of slow down just a little bit. You can kind of feel it. So, and then of course the music is always great. Tarantino is just one of these guys that you want to make a movie about Nazis, finds the perfect score for it. Make a movie about slavery, perfect score. Movie about Hollywood in the late 60s, perfect score. It's just Tarantino. It's his personality. So a good Tarantino movie with some major problems, but I still slightly enjoyed it enough to give it a B minus. Because when I first walked out of this movie, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I was like going D plus C minus. But the more I thought about it, there's just so many good things about this that I can't really slam this movie to the ground, but I also can't just say it's like one of the best Tarantino movies. It's a great film. So I'm kind of just like in the middle of all that. So good film, problems, but I do want to see it again to see if my mind has changed. So what did you guys think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? And let me know down below why I'm wrong, because I'm sure there's plenty of you out there that think differently. And it's like, no, this is makes sense to have all that and everything. Please let me know down below. I would like to have a conversation. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino, baby. So there you go. Let me know down below what you thought about the movie. And so that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.